Namaskar, good evening. You are watching Rajya Sabha television. I am Smriti Rastogi with News Tonight. Let's begin the bulletin with the top headlines. Big diplomatic victory for India. Pakistani Prime Minister Imran Khan announces decision to return Wing Commander Abhinandan to India tomorrow. IAF shows proof debunks Pakistan's claim that it did not use F-16 fighter jets. Says Indian fighter planes thwarted Pakistani plans to target Indian military installations. Army asserts mechanized forces on standby, troops ready to deal with any security challenge. Prime Minister Narendra Modi reviews security situation at high-level meeting in New Delhi. Defence Minister Nirmala Sitharaman meets chiefs of all three services. And Vice President M Venkaiah Naidu urges global community to unite in the fight against terrorism. Appeals to all political parties to speak in one voice against the menace. Prime Minister Narendra Modi asserts country is united to foil designs of forces bent on destabilizing the country. Our top focus tonight amid escalating tensions between India and Pakistan, the Army, Navy and Air Force said on Thursday that they are fully prepared to respond to any provocations by the neighbour. In a joint press briefing in New Delhi, senior officials of three services said Pakistan used F-16 fighter jets to target Indian military installations on Wednesday. They presented parts of an AMRAAM missile fired by Pakistani F-16 jets at the Indian military installations in Jammu and Kashmir's Rajouri district. The evidence nails Pakistan's lies about not using F-16 jets in its mission. The evidence is crucial to establishing the use of F-16 jets in the offensive because the US, which sold the jets to Islamabad, doesn't allow these platforms to be used in any offensive posture.
Can you turn around, sir? Banerjee, sir, can you turn around?
On 27th February 2019, at around 1000 hours, Indian Air Force radars detected a large package of Pakistan Air Force aircraft heading towards the Indian territory, towards general area Jangar. They breached the Indian airspace west of Rajouri in the Sundarbani area. The ingressing aircraft were observed to be at various levels. IAF fighters, including MiG-21 Bison, Sukhoi 30 MKI and Mirage 2000, were tasked to intercept the intruding Pakistan Air Force aircraft. The Pakistan Air Force aircraft attempting to target our military installations were intercepted by the IAF fighter aircraft, which foiled their attack. Although PAF bombs have fallen in the Indian Army formation compounds, however, they were unable to cause any damage to our military installations. In the aerial combat that ensued, one F-16 of Pakistan Air Force was shot down by an IAF MiG-21 Bison aircraft. The F-16 crashed and fell across the line of control in Pakistan-occupied Jammu and Kashmir. The IAF lost one MiG-21 in the aerial engagement, and though the pilot ejected safely, his parachute drifted into the Pakistan-occupied J&K, where he was taken into custody by the Pakistan Army. IAF remains ever vigilant, ready, and committed to take on any eventuality. IAF has also learned that Pakistan has announced that Wing Commander Abhinandan will be returned to India tomorrow. IAF is happy and looks forward to return of Wing Commander Abhinandan.
Air Force attempted to target military establishments in J&K. Specifically, they targeted a brigade headquarter, a battalion headquarter, our defenses, and a logistic installation. However, given the high level of preparedness along the line of control and the immediate and punitive response given by our own forces, the Pakistan Air Force's designs were foiled. We continue to maintain strict vigil along both the line of control and the IB sector. Our ground-based air defense weapon systems have been put on high alert all along the line of control and also in some parts of the IB. Our mechanized forces have also been placed on standby. I wish to assure the nation that we are fully prepared and in a heightened state of readiness to respond to any provocation by Pakistan.
The Indian Navy is deployed in a high state of readiness and remains poised in all three dimensions: on surface, undersea, and in air, to deter, prevent, and defeat any misadventure by Pakistan in the maritime domain. I can assure you of a resolute, swift, and strong response by the Navy when needed.
And Indian Air Force pilot Wing Commander Abhinandan will be released by Pakistan on Friday. The announcement was made by Pakistani Prime Minister Imran Khan on Thursday during a joint session of Parliament in Islamabad. Imran Khan said the Indian pilot in Pakistan's custody would be released as a peace gesture. The Indian Air Force said it is very happy that captured pilot Wing Commander Abhinandan is returning home, but dismissed Pakistan's statement that it was a goodwill gesture. It said that pilot's release is in line with the Geneva Conventions. Earlier in the day, India had sent a strong message to Pakistan, rejecting the possibility of any deal for securing the release of its pilot and demanding his unconditional and immediate repatriation. Wing Commander Abhinandan's MiG-21 was shot and he bailed out after bringing down one Pakistani F-16 fighter during a dogfight to repel a Pakistani attack on Wednesday morning. Since then, he has been in Pakistan. And Prime Minister Narendra Modi on Thursday chaired a high-level meeting on security amid the heightened tensions with Pakistan. The meeting was attended by chiefs of the three services: National Security Advisor Ajit Doval, Finance Minister Arun Jaitley, External Affairs Minister Sushma Swaraj, Home Minister Rajnath Singh, and Defence Minister Nirmala Sitharaman. Several other senior officials were also present during the high-level meeting that came hours after Pakistan announced the release of captured Indian pilot Wing Commander Abhinandan. And for more information on this, we'll go across to our correspondent Akhilesh Suman, who is joining us from the newsroom. Akhilesh, today Pakistan Prime Minister Imran Khan announced the release of the Wing Commander Abhinandan tomorrow as a peace and goodwill gesture. What has compelled Pakistan to make this statement, to take this step?
You know, Pakistan Prime Minister Imran Khan was under tremendous pressure. Pressure from inside his own country, that how to deal with India's attack on terrorist hideout, Jaish-e-Mohammed's hideout in Balakot. And also he was having tremendous pressure from outside that situation should not escalate further. So he was, between the two things. And everyone knew that our Wing Commander Abhinandan had gone there chasing the Pakistani flight. And while chasing the Pakistani flight, he actually ejected himself and he dropped in the Pakistan-occupied Kashmir. So in that case, he was in a way prisoner of war. And about prisoner of war, prisoner of as a combatant, there is a Geneva Convention, and under this Geneva Convention, you cannot mistreat a prisoner of war, you cannot mistreat a combatant, and you have to take care of his conditions, and also you have to immediately inform, and you have to return to the respective country. So this is a protocol, and this is a convention that every country has to obey and abide with. And this was the pressure that Prime Minister Imran Khan had announced today in the National Assembly, that he is going to return Wing Commander Abhinandan tomorrow. So, you know that international pressure was mounting against him. You have seen that right after India attacked Jaish-e-Mohammed hideout, Pakistan created a hue and cry, but they attacked our military hideout, and then to foil their attack on our military hideout, Abhinandan has gone there. So I think that was the natural corollary.
All right.
That is why, you know, Abhinandan is going to be returned to India tomorrow.
Right, Akhilesh. And after the release of Abhinandan, Wing Commander Abhinandan, how do we see things shaping up between India and Pakistan?
You know, one should not consider that after, you know, Wing Commander Abhinandan is handed over to India, situation will be normal. No, situation is not going to normal after that. Because the whole effort was, after Pulwama attack, Prime Minister Imran Khan had time and again announced from his own side that give us evidence, we will act against them who had perpetrated this crime. So India has created a dossier, India has made a dossier, and this dossier was handed over yesterday by Foreign Secretary to the Acting High Commissioner of Pakistan in Delhi.
Right.
And that dossier contains all the evidences that shows the involvement of Jaish-e-Mohammed in Pulwama crime. So now it is up to Pakistan and Pakistan Prime Minister that they have to walk the talk. And what is walk the talk? Act against those terrorists who had perpetrated the crime in Pulwama, and that action should be verifiable, and it should be evident to the whole world that action has to be taken. It should not be a window dressing that just keep in hideout for some more time, and then after 6 months or so, when situation people forget, the world community forgets, then you will again take him out, and he again creates foments against India. So the situation is now that after Pulwama, you have to act against, you have to book the perpetrators of this crime, and you have to give justice to those martyrs who was martyred in India. You know?
Right. And today a joint press conference was made by the three defense chiefs, where the parts of the Pakistani F-16 jet was presented, and at which the Pakistani side has countered that no F-16 was used in the attack, which was carried out, which was targeted at the military installations in Jammu and Kashmir's Rajouri district. Now, how this statement will impact the US-Pak sale condition, and what impact will it have on the world community which have defense ties with Pakistan?
That American equipments that have been given to Pakistan, including the aircrafts, they do have some protocol and they do have condition. One condition was that you have been given this to act against the terrorists inside Pakistan and maybe in Afghanistan sometimes if you are acting against terrorists. The second condition is that you cannot use it to escalate war or tension against any other country. And you cannot use this to go in any other country's territory without the permission of the United States. So these three conditions were there for use of F-16 that was given to Pakistan.
Right.
But everyone hopes and feels that Pakistan has not taken the respective permission from the US, and this was the cause why Pakistan was denying any use of F-16 in this action. So now India has proved that this was F-16, and through the missile remnants of the missile, the pieces of missiles that had fallen in Rajouri sector of India, those missiles show that these missiles are used only in F-16 aircraft. So now it is proven that F-16 has been used against India to escalate the war. So now it is up to US and Pakistan that whether US had given the permission to Pakistan or US will take some action against Pakistan for misuse of F-16.
All right. Thank you so much, Akhilesh, for joining us and giving us all those details on that very important development which took place today. Moving on to some more news, Prime Minister Narendra Modi has said that India is standing united even as the enemies are trying to destabilize the country. Interacting with the BJP workers across the country via video conferencing, the Prime Minister said that the country has faith in its security forces and nothing should be done to affect their morale.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi said on Thursday that India will fight, live, work and win as one, and nobody can create hurdles in its march towards development. Interacting with about 1 crore BJP workers in 15,000 locations via video conferencing, Prime Minister Modi said that the entire nation stands together to counter the evil designs of the enemies.
जब दुश्मन भारत को अस्थिर करने की साजिश करता है, जब आतंकी हमला करता है, तो उनका एक मकसद ये भी होता है कि हमारी प्रगति रुक जाए, हमारी गति रुक जाए, हमारा देश थम जाए। उनके इस मकसद के सामने हर भारतीय को दीवान बनकर के, चट्टान बनकर के खड़ा होना है।
Prime Minister Modi also said that it is necessary to ensure that nothing is done to dent the morale of the country's security forces. He added that the entire nation stands with the forces and that the world is witnessing India's willpower and unity.
पूरा देश आज एक है और हमारे जवानों के साथ खड़ा है। दुनिया हमारे कलेक्टिव विल को देख रही है। हमारी सेनाओं के सामर्थ्य पर हमें भरोसा है और इसलिए बहुत आवश्यक है कि कुछ भी ऐसा न हो जिससे उनके मनोबल पर आंच आए।
Addressing party workers in what was called the world's largest video conference, Prime Minister Modi said that the 2014 election was a mandate for fulfilling people's necessities and the 2019 polls will be about fulfilling people's aspirations. Bureau Report, Rajya TV.
Vice President M Venkaiah Naidu on Thursday appealed to the world community to be united in the fight against terrorism and that with the united concerted efforts, terrorism be eliminated. While addressing the third edition of Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam Summit on Innovation and Governance, Naidu said that political parties should together condemn terrorism and should support the country and the defence forces. He underlined that India has always been in favour of peace and does no harm to anyone. The Vice President said that in 1971, India had sent back all the Pakistani prisoners without causing any harm to them.
India that is firmly on a development trajectory. An India that will harness its intellectual, cultural and spiritual capital to regain its rightful place in the comity of nations. An India which will reap rich demographic dividend by providing knowledge and skills to its youth. An India that is inclusive, where the welfare of all the people is taken care. An India which is dynamic, forward-looking, with the courage to bridge numerous divides, especially the urban-rural divide. An India where there is no corruption. An India where there is no exploitation. An India where the economic disparities are bridged. An India where there is no gender discrimination.
And more developments, US, UK and France moved a proposal in the UN Security Council on Wednesday to designate Masood Azhar as a global terrorist. The proposal was moved by the 3 permanent members of the 15-nation Security Council. The Security Council Sanctions Committee have 10 working days to consider the latest proposal. This will subject him to global travel ban, asset freeze and arms embargo. It is the 4th such bid at the UN in the last 10 years to list Azhar as a global terrorist. And Prime Minister Narendra Modi on Thursday presented the Shanti SwarupBhatnagar Prizes for Science and Technology at Vigyan Bhavan in the national capital. The awards were given for the years 2016, 17 and 18. Giving away the awards, Prime Minister Modi stressed on the need to connect people with innovation, science and technology. Prime Minister Modi urged to mold their research in accordance with the need of the society and the economy and pitched for interdisciplinary research. He said that in the coming days, data will be the new fuel and the country and the scientific community will have to accordingly invest in it.
हमारी सरकार अपने तमाम कार्यक्रमों और योजनाओं के जरिए भी इस दिशा में कुछ न कुछ प्रयास कर रही है। साथियों, हमारे पास डेमोक्रेसी, डेमोग्राफी एंड डिमांड इसका डिविडेंड है। आज भारत दुनिया की सबसे तेजी से बढ़ती हुई अर्थव्यवस्था बन चुका है। हमारे युवाओं की महत्वाकांक्षाएं सर्वश्रेष्ठ होने को लेकर उनकी ललक हमारी सबसे बड़ी ताकत है। ऐसे में हमें साइंस, टेक्नोलॉजी और इनोवेशन को जनता से जोड़कर उन्हें समाज की आकांक्षाओं और जरूरत के अनुरूप बनाना होगा।
Remembering the contribution of celebrated scientist C.V. Raman, Prime Minister Modi said that Indian scientists have always contributed towards betterment of humankind. Emphasizing on the need to promote pharma sector, Prime Minister Narendra Modi said that Indian manufactured medicines are being exported to over 200 countries, which has been made possible due to the technology provided by CSIR. Citing the example of India's space program, he said that Indian scientists can rise above limited resources with their willpower. Prime Minister Modi said that artificial intelligence can be used in every sector for fast-paced development.
दुनिया को आप जैसे हमारे अनेक वैज्ञानिकों के कौशल ने ही चकित किया है। अपने पहले ही प्रयास में हमने मंगल ग्रह के ऑर्बिट में अपना मंगलयान सफलतापूर्वक भेज दिया था। ऐसे करने वाले हम पहले एशियाई देश थे। अभी तक जो हमने हासिल किया है उससे मुझे पूरा विश्वास है कि वर्ष 2022 तक देश का अपना गगनयान सफलतापूर्वक देश के अपने बेटे बेटियों को अंतरिक्ष में ले जाएगा और वहां तिरंगा फहराएगा।
And dealing with a batch of petitions challenging the validity of the Forest Rights Act, the Supreme Court on February 13th directed 21 states to apprise it about the action taken by them over the eviction of tribals and forest dwellers whose claims have been rejected. The court said once the orders of eviction have been passed, the eviction ought to have taken place. The order was bound to affect nearly 12 lakh people residing in or near forest lands. With the Ministry of Tribal Affairs seeking modification of the order, the Apex Court has agreed to put on hold its eviction order.
In a major reprieve for 12 lakh forest dwellers and tribals, the Supreme Court on Thursday stayed its February 13th order that could have resulted in their forcible eviction from forest lands. A two-judge bench comprising Justices Arun Mishra and Naveen Sinha directed state governments to file an affidavit giving details about the process adopted in rejecting the claims of forest-dwelling scheduled tribes and other traditional forest dwellers.
Today, the Supreme Court has stayed its earlier order, which had in some way asked for states to update itself on the steps it has taken to evict those who are not eligible under the Forest Rights Act. Today, on an application that was moved by the central government, Ministry of Tribal Affairs, represented by the Solicitor General of India, the Supreme Court has stayed the execution of its earlier order and given 4 months' time, basically for the states to submit the progress with regard to the implementation of this act. And till that time, no evictions or any coercive steps should be taken by any of the state governments against any forest dwellers. Whether they are eligible or ineligible, that does not matter.
17 states, Andhra Pradesh, Assam, Bihar, Chhattisgarh, Jharkhand, Karnataka, Kerala, Madhya Pradesh, Maharashtra, Odisha, Rajasthan, Tamil Nadu, Telangana, Tripura, Uttarakhand, Uttar Pradesh and West Bengal submitted status reports on rejection of claims of forest-dwelling scheduled tribes and other traditional forest dwellers. Based on these reports, a 3-judge bench of the Supreme Court directed chief secretaries of these states on 13th February this year to ensure the eviction of these people from forest lands whose claims under the Forest Rights Act 2006 have been rejected on or before 24th of July. The eviction order of the Supreme Court drew flack from tribal rights groups and activists.
Background of this Forest Rights Act 2006. There is a principle in the international law that whoever occupies a land which is unclaimed would be owner of that land and he owns it. And this is one of the principles which was recognized when the Parliament took up this issue of, or the government took up this issue of bringing in a legislation to remove sense of alienation amongst the scheduled tribes of this country and other forest dwellers. The scheduled tribes have been the first occupants of that unclaimed forest, and they were depending on it for their livelihood as well as all medical purpose, food, etc.
On 27th February, the Ministry of Tribal Affairs moved the Supreme Court seeking an urgent hearing. In its plea, the ministry sought modification of the previous order. It urged the top court to direct state governments to file detailed affidavits regarding the procedure to examine all claims as well as the details of rejection. Till this was done, eviction of forest-dwelling scheduled tribes and other traditional forest dwellers was to be put on hold. The ministry also said that after examining the affidavits filed by the state governments, it could not be certain if the rejection orders were passed after following due process and whether appeal mechanisms had been exhausted. The centre further added that it has been periodically monitoring the implementation of the Forest Rights Act by state governments. The high rate of rejection of claims is mostly due to a wrong interpretation of the Act. The ministry also underlined a lack of awareness about filing claims among Gram Sabhas. In many cases, reason for rejections was not communicated to the claimants. The Ministry of Tribal Affairs contended that as forest dwellers are poor and illiterate, it was difficult to substantiate their claims before competent authorities. The Apex Court order on 13th February came in a case challenging the constitutional validity of the Forest Rights Act of 2006. A number of petitions were filed by an NGO, Wildlife First, and a few retired forest officials who argued that the Right to Forest Act has led to deforestation and encroachment of forest land. The petitioners sought recovery of forest land from the possession of forest dwellers. The case has been going on in the Supreme Court since March 2008. The next hearing will take place on 10th of July 2019. With inputs from Leena Sharma, Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
And that's all we have for you in this edition of News Tonight. Thank you for watching. Namaskar.